I screamed in pain and then I instantly scared Vicky Hayes and I said oh god no, they let him out of prison. They let Art out of prison and then instantly Vicky Hayes got scared and then I turned on the news and it was all over the news and on CBS News they said this Justin Art the immortal clown has been released from prison and then the reporter said what kind of crap is this, why would they let that maniac out of prison, don't they know who he is, and then the people said just announce it and then the reporter said I'm sorry ladies and gentlemen but I'm forced to deliver bad news, apparently Art the clown has been released from prison somehow and he's been cleared of all charges, and then right after Art got his voice back the librarian asked him so what did you want to talk about before, and then he said there's places I want to go first and then I'll go kill Mikey boy but first I want to watch him suffer as I kill the people he saved from me, and then I said oh no you don't, you bastard, and then I teleported in front of Allie and I said I'm here to help, and then she asked how did you do that and I said there's no time for me to explain, where's Sienna Shaw and the rest of your friends, and then she said they're at home, why, and then I said I need to save them all again, and then I teleported to everyone I saved before and I made sure to teleport everyone I saved before to the bunker where Sam and Dean Winchester live, and then Dean Winchester said I saw the news, I know why you brought them here, and then I gave the bunker a upgrade, I reinforced everything with first divine metal to keep that bastard out, and then I teleported back to my house quickly and I teleported my family and friends to the bunker along with Dean Sam's family, and then Dean Winchester and Sammy said we are going with you, and then I said no, stay here, someone needs to look out for them, and then Castiel said I got them covered and so does Gabriel, and then Chuck Shirley stepped in front and he said I'll protect them, and I looked at Chuck Shirley surprised and I said I hope you do, we could use your help, it would be greatly appreciated, but we all needed your help years ago as I'm sure you know, I'll leave it to you then Chuck, and then I looked at Castiel and Gabriel and they nodded and I said good luck boys, and then Crowley showed up and he said boss I need to talk to you soon, it's important, and then I said it will have to wait for now, Art the clown got out of prison, and then Crowley said that's what I want to talk to you about, and then I asked him what, and then Crowley explained to me that Art the clown had been doing nothing but training the last 10 years while he's been in solitary confinement, and then I laughed and I said good, I trained for billions of years in my hyperbolic time chamber so when I fight him we'll have no excuses, and then Crowley said that's not all boss, apparently the big bad Kane had a family tree that goes back centuries and you and him are on it, and as it turns out you are Art's long lost brother, and then I said what the hell are you telling me right now, and then Crowley said I'm saying that Art the clown is your half brother, you had the same mother, and then I said that's bullshit, and then Crowley said trust me I wish it wasn't, and I grabbed Crowley and I lifted him off his feet with one of my hands around his throat and my eyes glowed bright red and I said no it can't be, this complicates things, and then Dean Winchester said no it doesn't, you have to kill that guy, he's insane, and I said I know but I didn't even know I had a brother, and then Crowley said apparently your parents died before they could tell you anything about Art, and then Dean Winchester said oh come on, you killed the guy once already, and then I said that was before I knew he was my brother, and besides it was self-defense, he tried to kill me with a God Killer Magnum 44, and then Dean Winchester said I want one of those guns, and he said dude get me a gun like that please, and then I said okay I'll get you one dude, and then Dean Winchester hugged me and said oh thanks dude, and I said oh god get the hell off of me, I'm a dude, you shake my hand, and then I stopped Dean from hugging me, and then I stuck out my hand and Dean Winchester said damn right, and I said yeah man have some decorum, shake on it, and then Dean Winchester said see Sammy that's a real man, and I said dude that's your brother, it's different, I understand why you would want to hug him, and then Dean Winchester said oh I'm sorry man that was insensitive, and then said it's okay, I didn't know that Art the clown was my brother, but I'm nothing like that asshole, and my mother wasn't crazy, she was a good person, and then my wives smiled and said Art's father was probably insane, and they said your brother is a crazy clown, Natalie Portman said, and I scowled and I said that's not funny, and then I said Crowley I hate you right now, and then Crowley said I'm sorry mate but I thought you would like to know.